Hello everyone, this is Noah with Wagner Small Mechanic. Today we have a 2012 Honda Accord and had the customer called me to come out and diagnose a whining noise, which ended up being the power steering pump. And the reason for that is the fluid was low, and while I was looking around here on the coolant reservoir, the hood, pretty much all these hoses surrounding the pump, you can see it all is wet, which means we have power steering leaking somewhere. I refilled it and tested that theory, and we have a bad pump so far. We got a gasket inside the pump that is bad. Can't spend too much time talking today. I do have a supervisor on site, so let's get to it. Alright, first step of the process here is going to be removing this serpentine belt that's on the power steering pump. The tensioner pulley is going to be this pulley right here that I have my wrench on. We're going to be using a 14mm socket to get it off. To relieve the tension on the belt, I'm going to be pushing down, and that will loosen the belt to get it off. I'm going to need both hands to get the rest of the belt off. Alright, we got that belt removed. I just took it off the pulley and set it here to the side. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to be taking off our two lines to our power steering pump. Keep in mind there will be fluid in these lines, so I'm going to use a rag as I take these up to keep the spillage minimized as much as I can. Alright, let's get to it. Next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be removing these two hoses. Both of these on this metal line for the power steering pump are going to be 10mm. But to start, I'm going to be taking this hose clamp off and removing this hose, because if you look at our new pump here, it does come with this fitting. So we don't need to remove this plastic fitting, just the hose. Let's get to it. Do be prepared when you pull this hose off. There will probably be some power steering fluid in there. So I like to have a rag ready to catch some of that mess. There we go. And we're just going to tuck that over here out of the way. Next, we're going to be removing this line here with our 10mm. Get us another rag. Check up on the boss. Rag. Just get that tucked right behind that line. And then we're just going to wiggle it and slowly work it off. There we go. Yeah, O-ring is, you can see it coming apart on there. This piece of it. Alright, and then we're going to set this line out of the way, just like the last one. Set that right there in the rack. Alright, now we got both the lines off. Next, we're going to be taking out the two mounting bolts. We got one here on the bottom, and then one here. These are both going to be 14mm bolts. Let's get those out. We'll set it to the side here. We're going to compare with our new one. For those that want to know, this part was purchased at AutoZone. It's going to be a Duralast brand 5821N is the part number for it. We're going to pull it out of this bag. Alright, next we're going to compare, make sure we got the same part here. Look at that. Identical. Alright, let's get it prepped. We're going to take this cap off here and this one, and go ahead. First we're going to secure it in, and then we'll start hooking up the hoses. Now we got the power steering pump in. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go and hook up this line here first. Same thing as taking it off, slide it on, and put the hose clamp. Let's do it. I always try to put it back exactly how it was, just because over time it's going to form to the hose. So your best seal is going to be putting it back on that same track. Alright, next thing we're going to do, before we pull this out, this plug here, and replace it with this hose, we're going to replace the O-ring that is on the end of it that you saw previously that was falling apart. There's the O-ring, some of it. So we're going to get a pick. We're going to remove that O-ring and put a new one on. Alright, got my pick here. Try to do this. Get behind that O-ring. Just pull it out. It's okay if it gets damaged, you're not using it again anyways. There we go. Old O-ring is off. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to clean up this area before we put that new O-ring on. So I'm just going to wipe it down with a rag. Alright, here's our old O-ring, here's our new one. We're going to get that put on and then lubricate it. Take a little bit of this old power steering fluid on my finger and use that to lubricate that O-ring before we put it back in. Alright, now let's pull this cap out. And then we're just gonna, that surface is clean. That one looks pretty good. We're just gonna replace it. Same way as out, we're gonna slowly work it back in so it doesn't pop that O-ring out of that groove. Just kind of add pressure and walk it in, and it'll pop right in just like that. Alright, once that's fully set in, we're going to grab our screws here, start by hand. take our 10mm. One more time my hand, make sure I'm not putting too much pressure on the screws. Get another break off. So I can gauge tight one. I use a little bit more. That's right, the only way out. That works. Got one more there. Come on, there we go. Alright, now that we got both the hoses hooked up, we're going to get this belt back onto the pulley, same way we got it off. We're going to put that 14 back on that tensioner there, grab this belt back out from here, and put it back over that pump, new pump. Let's do it. Alright, we got the belt back on. I was struggling a little bit because it popped off down there at the main crank, which is really hard to reach unless you take off that tire wheel and that wheel well liner. But it was mostly on, and you know, a little trick to that is if it's just barely off and it's causing too much tension to be able to get this all the way on, I just turn the car on and bump it. Just turn it over just for half a second maybe, and it'll pop, correct itself. Once that corrected itself down there, I was able to get this back on. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to fill it with some fluid and bleed out all the air in this pump. First thing I'm going to do before I start it is I'm going to fill this pump a little bit above the upper mark, just because as this runs it's going to remove the air and push it back in the reservoir and pull more fluid, so that level is going to drop as we bleed. So let's get some fluid in there. Now let's get it started. Let it bleed. I filled it basically almost to the top, and as you can see, it's just a little bit above that upper mark. I'm gonna check for leaks out of both these lines. I'm not seeing any. Nothing there. All right. To finish the bleeding process, we're gonna slowly turn the steering wheel all the way to the right, then all the way to the left. And I like to repeat that process probably 3 to 4 times to fully get all the air out of the system. Now to do this, pump start quite down because it's removing all the air from the system. All right, let's go. Take it down to the bottom, and there we go. Keep on the top. Don't see any leak. Good time. Lastly, I'm just cleaning up all these areas. Power steering fluid went everywhere, so we're going to get it cleaned up, and that way we can tell if there's any other leaks, if it's swinging anywhere. Alright guys, we got the power steering pump replaced. We got it bled out properly, filled to close to that upper level. It's perfect. Everything works right, no leaks detected, so last thing we're gonna do, we're gonna take for a test drive. Alright, another job well done. Everything checks out, customer's happy, easy peasy.